Welcome to the Wise Idea Weekly Podcast with Christopher J. Harris, focusing on life, leadership, family, marriage, and the church. We are providing tools for our inspiration and wisdom for life. Our goal is to inspire everyday people to live wise lives. If you're new to us, we release a brand new podcast weekly on Thursdays. Thank you for tuning in for this week's episode. Here's our host, Christopher J. Harris.
Hello, my friends. Welcome again to another episode of the Wise Idea Weekly Podcast with Christopher J. Harris. I am your host, Christopher J. Harris, and I'm so excited to have you tuned in with us for another episode. Man, my mind is blown, y'all. We are officially over 50 episodes now, and it's amazing because, as I said in a couple episodes ago, it's hard to imagine that just less than 12 months ago, this was an idea in my head, and we literally launched this podcast in 3 weeks. I had no idea who was going to listen. I had no idea all of what I would talk about. I didn't even know if people would tell me yes when I would give an invitation for them to be on the podcast. But as God would have it, as faith would have it, as stepping out on faith would have it, almost everybody that I've asked to be on the podcast has said yes, almost. Those of you that have said no, if you're listening to this, guess what? I've only taken your no as a not yet because I'm coming back. So listen, it's been an amazing journey, and I hope you have hit the ground running in 2019. We've started this year out. We kind of had a review of 2018 and some of the dynamics and the themes and the ideas from 2018. And then we've kicked off this conversation about habits. What does it look like to have healthy habits and holistic habits? And what does it look like to have the right framework with your thinking and all those kinds of good things? And I could not think of a better person to have on the podcast today than speaker extraordinaire, author extraordinaire. He's always on a plane. He's always laughing. Y'all gotta YouTube this guy and listen to his laugh. His laugh will make you laugh. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast, Mr. Simon T. Bailey. Simon, how are you, my friend?
I'm great, Christopher. Thank you so much for having me. Good to be with you.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you on, Mr. Brilliance himself. So, listen, we don't have a lot of time. Let's jump right into it. Let's tell people who you are and a little bit about your story and your background and all of that.
I'm a simple guy from Buffalo, New York, who still roots for the Buffalo Bills. And I currently live in Orlando, Florida. I'm the father of two amazing teenagers, Daniel, my 19-year-old, and Madison, my 16-year-old. And I simply hug people with my words. My purpose in life is to teach people how to be fearless and create the future.
Man, that's amazing. And you said you're a simple guy, and then you immediately said that still roots for the Buffalo Bills. I don't know how simple you could be.
This could be the year. Next season.
Yeah. You gotta have some significant faith and some significant resolve, yes, and some significant courage, yes, to still be rooting for the Buffalo Bills, yes, man.
Absolutely.
So it's amazing. This is not what we're going to talk about today, but it's sometimes you have to be in a place to actually make the connections. And I went to go speak at a church one time in Buffalo, New York. It's my first time ever being there. And I had no idea that was actually the place where buffalo wings were from. I never made that connection.
That's right.
And the lady, when I placed my order, after I found that out, I placed my order, man, she looked at me like really weird, waiting to see if I was going to do it with ranch or blue cheese.
Nice.
Yeah. Mm. So you are known as Mr. Brilliance.
I am.
Let's talk about that. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to be an author and a coach and a lecturer, speaker, all of that.
I worked for 6 different companies, had 10 different jobs. My last job was sales director and new business development director for the Disney Institute. I left Disney 16 years ago to go out on my own, and since that time, I've worked with almost 1,800 organizations in 46 countries. What I simply do is I help organizations and individuals unlock their most important asset, that is potential, that is possibility. And I do that obviously through training, coaching, developing, working one-on-one, but really speaking in front of large organizations from as small as 50 in a board setting up to 10,000 plus. And so I started writing and talking about brilliance after coming across some of the research work of Dr. Howard Gardner, who is professor of education at Harvard. What Dr. Gardner discovered is that children up until the age of 4 are operating at the genius level. The same group of children was studied in their early 20s, and only 10% were still operating at the genius, or what I call the brilliance level. And in their late 20s, early 30s, only 2% were still operating at the genius or brilliance level. So the question I began to ask is, where did this genius or brilliance go? And it didn't go anywhere, but it became buried by a society that says, color within the line, sit down, give it back, you can't do this. And the more a person continues to hear what they can't do, where they can't go, and who they can't become, they begin to shut down over time. So the older you become, the slower you move, because you don't think you have what it takes to be brilliant at what you do. So what I am discovering is, how do I help people release their brilliance, shift their brilliance, and accelerate their brilliance?
Wow. You just unleashed a whole lot of meat in there. Let's dig into that a little bit more. So talk about some of your challenges then, because you listed off pretty quickly there, 10 companies, you said the number of years, and then you made a shift into, how many companies you've helped now and how many countries you've been in, et cetera, et cetera. What did that look like for you? What were those roadblocks, those bumps in the road that caused you to even recognize, not only here is what's going on in my own life, but here's how I can help other people get to or get past those roadblocks in their own life?
I think there were 3 roadblocks that I look at. Number 1, I had to realize it's not who you are that holds you back from being your most brilliant self. It's who you think you're not that holds you back. And sometimes we focus on who we think we're not instead of who we are. The second roadblock that I had to overcome is, just because I was born in the 3rd poorest city in America, Buffalo, New York, 3rd poorest city in America, 14215 zip code. If the median household income in the United States, according to the Census Bureau, is 50 to 75,000, the median household income in Buffalo, New York is 25,000. So I recognize is sometimes you can be born into a zip code, but you have to relocate to a new mental zip code to expand your worldview. So that's the second thing I had to overcome. The third thing I had to realize is, it's not the color of your skin that prevents you from breaking out and really stepping into your brilliance. It's understanding that within every mind, there is a belief system. And within every belief system, there is a story. And within every story, there is a shaper. So sometimes we have to change the channel on the vision so that we can create a new story that creates a new belief or a new mental model that causes us to break out from living average so that we can be brilliant.
All right, so we got to unpack that some, Simon. All right, so number 1, you said who you're not.
Yep.
Restate number 2 again.
So number 2 is, how do I relocate to a new mental zip code, even though the physical zip code that I was born into is poverty? So relocate to a new mental zip code. And then the third thing that I had to overcome was really changing my story and recognizing, how do I create a new television, change the channel on my television of what I was seeing.
Yeah. And so number 1, if we talk about who we're not, are you suggesting that we often talk ourselves out of what's in us? We talk ourselves out of purpose?
Yeah, totally. One of the things that happened in my life, my mentor and person who's probably had the greatest impact on my life, a gentleman named Dr. Mark Sharona, who just happens also to be my pastor, said to me a number of years ago, you're stuck in your mind and your body thinking the pigmentation of your skin holds you back. And he said, I'm telling you, you weren't born to fit in. You were born to be brilliant. And when he said it, what I recognized is I was languaging fitting in, conforming, playing small, not finding my voice, finding my confidence. So literally my word created worlds that I lived in, that I was not tapping into my potential of possibility. And when he said, you weren't born to fit in, you were born to be brilliant, it unlocked something in me and released me, because nobody had ever told me that I was born to be brilliant. That day, I upgraded my verbal software and I began to say, I am brilliant. And everything began to shift.
So if somebody is listening to this, I recognize, and I believe this is what you're saying, but just for the sake of discussion, somebody may hear this and think, well, shifting my life is simply a matter of affirmation. Is that what you're suggesting?
It's not just affirmation, it's affirmation with application. So I can say something, but I have to be mindful of how am I applying it to my habits, my behaviors, my thinking. How am I producing something different every single day that aligns with my affirmation? Because you can say I'm brilliant all day long, but if you never put application with the affirmation, it's dead on arrival.
Yeah, that's good. Couple of the books that I've been reading over the last month or two has been talking a lot about cognitive dissonance, where people say one thing, but their hearts and mind believe something else. And so you have a lot of people, particularly those in the faith community, who will make lots of declarations and confessions, but if there's not the alignment with their heart and their mind, then there's a disconnect.
Totally. We've got to give people application.
Yeah. So I began to affirm verbally, here is who I am versus who I'm not, right? So I am this versus I'm not this. That has to align with purpose based on what you're saying, right? I have to believe that in my heart and my mind. I have to couple that with action and behavior and all of that. Then I'm moving to number 2. You said relocate to a new zip code?
Right, a mental zip code. See, your geography does not determine your biography. So born in Buffalo, New York, but I did not have to become what I saw. I could relocate to a new mental zip code, and that mental zip code for me was a new mindset, will set, and skill set. What was the new mindset? Had to start reading books that stretched me, that expanded my worldview. I had to begin to acquire new skills that were beyond my comfort zone. I had to tap into the will set, the resilience to keep going when I saw no results. So it's the seed that's planted in the soil that dies, and it looks like nothing is happening because that seed is hidden from obscurity. But little do we know that seed is going to break through, and it's going to produce a harvest. So what I recognize, for me, my mental zip code, and I'm mixing metaphors intentionally, my mental zip code is I had to move from Buffalo. I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and all of a sudden going to Morehouse and being exposed to everything that Morehouse was about totally expanded who I saw in my consciousness. So what I recognize, even though I was born and raised in Buffalo, I did not have to become where I was from. Sometimes God will hide things not from you, he will hide things for you. So I had to get to a new place to be exposed to a new reality.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing. You know, as you were talking, I was thinking about the number of people over my life as a pastor and a counselor and a coach and all of that I've come across who had such amazing potential, but was so geographically locked in their comfort zone, where they live, where they're from, that I felt in my heart, if they could just move out of town, like move to a new place, literally just pick up and move, to force themselves to learn something new, like how much more could they accomplish? And so that I was thinking about that as you were making that last point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then, so this last idea almost can be a little controversial, because you said that it's not your color, but it's really about your mindset and your belief.
Totally.
So we're going to dig into that, but on the backdrop of that, because as you know, we are in a very awkward, socially awkward culture right now when it comes to race and class. So for my people of color that are listening to this, so you just made a couple people happy with that statement. You made a group that doesn't believe color has anything to do with anything happy, because they just, their echo chamber said, yes, I finally have somebody that says what I believe, right? So let me stop there. What are you really saying there? Does race have nothing to do with anything?
Race has everything to do with how we show up in society. So like you, Christopher, I am unapologetically happy to be a Black man in America. But also understanding that I'm a Black man in America, I have to choose how I create my brand as a man, as a father, and as a business leader. And in my choosing, I can choose to take on what television tells me about who I am: incarcerated, don't take care of my kids, drop out of school, waiting for welfare, on and on. I can take on those labels, or I can choose to create the brand called Me Incorporated. So yes, I am African American. My father was from Jamaica, an immigrant to this country. My mother was born in Sanford, Florida. So I'm a Jamaican, so I have Caribbean roots. But being a Jamaican, I have to decide, do I believe the story that is being said? And if I don't believe the story, because I live in the greatest land in the world, the greatest country in the world, and I'm not trying to be patriotic, I'm just saying we have a great country in America. My brand is an emotion, a connection, a perception, a moment, and a memory. So every single day I wake up, I know who I am as a Black man. I know when I step on an elevator that if a woman of a different ethnicity gets on the elevator, she's going to move to the far end of the elevator and clutch her purse, because society has conditioned her to be that way. But I don't even have to worry about that and be offended by that. I understand that she's been conditioned to do that. So what I know is, how do I show up and recognize that I have a new day to create a new perception of how people see me as a Black man in America, who also happens to be unapologetically a Christian. So every single day I show up with that awareness to hug people with my words. And what I begin to recognize is every single day I do that, I am living out my Christian faith, because that's what Jesus would do.
No, man, that's amazing. That's amazing. And I think very candidly, this conversation around race is taking on new frontiers, not just for those who are non-people of color, but even people of color, internally. So thank you for sharing that. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is my good friend, Simon T. Bailey, breaking it down for us. I know you were just about to get into it, and you were enjoying the dialogue that we were having. I was enjoying it. To hear the rest of it, you're going to have to tune in next week. Yeah, Simon T. Bailey is coming back next week to finish this discussion around living out your brilliance and living out God's plan and purpose for your life in an incredible way. So I look forward to having you tune back in with us. Our announcer is going to come now and give you some more details. Guess what, guys? This time, next week, I want to hear you back on the Wise Idea podcast. You know how I end every single episode. When wisdom becomes a part of your life, your entire life gets better in every single area. So, live wisely.
Thanks again for joining us on another episode of the Wise Idea Podcast with Christopher J. Harris. We hope you enjoyed our time together. If you did and would like additional resources and information, you can find the previous episodes, show notes, featured guest information, and more at www.thewiseideapodcast.com. We also invite you to join the conversation on social media. The Wise Idea Podcast is on Twitter and Facebook. Find us at The Wise Idea and at our Facebook group, The Wise Idea Podcast. On Instagram, find us at The Wise Idea Podcast. Our host is also on social media. You can find him regularly on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Pinterest, all located at CJ Harris 1. Finally, if you enjoyed what you've heard, head over to iTunes and or Google Play and leave a rating and review for other listeners to find us. Our podcast is also on Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Thanks again for joining us. We will see you the next time. Live wisely.
Understanding.